Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Oh, jeez. You dialed set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here. We broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central Time. And if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line, it's up 24 hours a day. You can listen to the most current broadcast on your telephone, 605-477-3249, 605-477-3249. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Welcome, Rick. Yep. I know. So where's Rick?
Where am I? Hello? Am I there?
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
You're there.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Hey, Rick, I'm holding in my hands a letter. Came in the mail. You know, a physical piece of paper with ink, and it's got an orange-colored band across it, and it says Discover. And it's dated 09/22/2017. And it came to our house, and it was addressed to me and Mrs. Finelli. And I'm going to read this letter. It's short. It says, to meet government guidelines that prevent money laundering and terrorist financing, financial institutions must maintain current information about their customers. By the way, they spell customers with a lowercase c. I would spell it, if I were referring to our customers, with a capital C, out of respect. But they spell it with a lowercase c. Therefore, we are requesting that our customers, lowercase c, update their profiles with citizenship and occupation information. Choose one of the two quick and easy ways to provide this information. Go to discover.com/update profile and update the citizenship and employment information section of the profile page, or simply call the number on the back of your card and speak to an agent. And it goes on to say thank you. And if you've already disregard this notice, if you've already provided the requested information. Rick, these government perverts want to know everything, and there's no end to what they want to know. The only thing I can think of that would describe these people is peeping Toms. These guys are peeping Toms in every way, shape, and form I can think of. They now want to know what our occupation is, what our employment situation is, in addition to whether we would call ourselves a citizen or not. I find that outrageous, that the government is demanding that.
Didn't they used to define a voting citizen as somebody that owned land?
I believe that's correct.
And that anybody that did not own land was not a citizen?
What they're asking for right now, which I find even more outrageous, is what our occupation is. And when people ask me, so what do you do? I go, I don't do anything. I don't have a job. And that's what I tell people. When they ask me, what do? I don't have a job. And that puts me in, the bottom of the bucket. I am the lowest denominator of life because I don't have a job. And that's what I say. And that kind of that kind of prevents me from having to talk about lots of things. I don't want to tell people more information about me and my family and what we do. You know, I think the government is intrusive. I think they're invasive, and I don't see why they need to know all this information about us. And at some point today, I'd like to talk about Apple and the iPhone and the facial recognition and how nuts it is to have a phone that captured your face and lets you identify yourself as the owner of that phone by your face. Now, where does that face go?
You know, when you
where
called
does
me
that
this morning,
algorithm go?
Yeah, when you called me this morning, I had an issue, but I have a worse issue, and I'd forgotten all about telling you about it. On Facebook, DocRam.com, you will find a post I put up yesterday regarding Michio Kaku. Michio Kaku is a mouthpiece for disseminating what's going on in the world of science. And yesterday, he went on CBS to absolutely confirm and explain how the Category 5 hurricanes were used as weapons to test their ability to control the weather. And CBS, I want you to draw attention to the way those two people interviewed him on Red Alert and immediately cut him off when he started using certain words, and they were coached not to. That showed me that not only are they about to dump a bunch of stuff on us about what's happening in the world, they've already now acknowledged that we are using HAARP. We used HAARP to control and create hurricanes. And he went on to explain how that works. You can look and read that article. It's everywhere. And I went and vetted it and then watched the two reporters, how nervous they were with him doing that. Now, why is he doing that? Because they're going to have a bunch of more bad news disclosures shortly. And I am telling everyone now, we are in for it this next month. And that's what I wanted to really talk about.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I mentioned on the air that I thought that there was a component of these massive superstorms, these hurricanes.
Yeah, he confirms it. He not only confirms it, the way he does it, they are very on red alert, trying to make certain he stays within certain guidelines or boundaries in the words that he uses, and immediately cut him off. They cut him off in the middle of it so that he can't. And it's obvious, it's evident. The article that I posted covers it. And wait till you see the second article I put on that has a more detailed disclosure of how it all works.
And the article
post
in Neon Nettle, Neon, NEON-NETTLE.com, which is linked on your Facebook page, DocRam.com. Headline: Top scientist admits live TV recent hurricanes are man-made. Dr. Michio Kaku accidentally makes confession on weather modification. His name is spelled M-I-C-H-I-O, last name K-A-K-U, Dr. Michio Kaku. And
he didn't make a mistake.
Some people think that he is one of the...
And he did it where CBS already knew it was going to happen and were very careful to cut him off when he exceeded their boundaries. Now, that means that the media is already aware of it and are guiding our country toward oblivion with skill. I caught it all.
Rick, in this post,
really bad.
In this post, it says one of the world's leading scientists has made a shocking confession on live TV when he accidentally admitted that the recent man-made hurricanes.
It wasn't an accident. He did that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it says the article says
to make to you. The reason he did that is because they're going to admit that, and then they're going to have something even worse, so that you don't even care about that hurricane. That's how it's going to play. Mm-hmm. That'll be this next month.
It goes on to say, admitted that the recent man-made hurricanes have been artificially created through secret, let me say it a different way, secret government weather modification. During an interview on mainstream media outlet CBS News, physicist Dr. Michio Kaku said the skies have been sprayed with nanoparticles and storms are then activated using lasers.
Yeah, it's aluminum,
Geoengineering,
and that's where your aluminum cans are now going that you drink and recycle.
Not mine. I throw them away. I'm not going to participate in the destruction of the weather. I'm not going to participate in that. And it says here, geoengineering isn't a new idea though, and government-funded. Let me say it a different way. Government-funded programs such as the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP, was created in the early 1990s and was an ionospheric research program jointly funded by the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Navy, University of Alaska Fairbanks, and the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, D-A-R-P-A. HAARP was capable of weaponizing the weather and has the ability of potentially triggering floods, droughts, hurricanes, and earthquakes. Throughout the life of the program, it incurred around $250 million in tax-funded construction and operating costs. That's just a portion of the article that we're talking about. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. RichardAllenMiller.com.
I can't hear.
RichardAllenMiller.com. Rick, the question that I have.
Vincent, I can't hear.
Okay, let's see if we
There's
can
no
crank it
volume.
up. Nate, how about now? Is that a little better? Oh, jeez. I don't know. I've got a headset, a Plantronics
I can't hear you,
headset. All right. Well, Nathan, can you crank him up just a little bit? Nathan's engineering the broadcast here.
I can't hear a thing.
GCN. Wow.
It's getting worse.
Okay.
You're gone.
Let's see. I'm looking. Really? Okay. I'm
not
looking at
hearing
my. Okay. I don't know what to
you're
say,
gone.
Rick. Let me. I'm looking at the statistics for the transmission.
I can't hear you.
Everything looks okay from my end. Audio meters look good. Connection
I'm
looks
being
good.
harassed at every end. I can't hear a thing, Vincent. I'm so sorry.
All right.
What?
Well, I don't.
I'm going to hang up and have you call me back.
I'll tell you. Why don't Rick? Why don't you call in case? Let's see. I'm
What
looking
number?
at this.
I can't hear.
Okay. I'm going to give you a number. I'm going to give you a
Okay,
number
hold
to
on.
call in. You ready?
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm trying to move as quickly as I... Okay, please.
Okay. 866-582-9933. 866.
I'll try that. I'll call you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so Rick was having trouble with the connection. And my question for Rick when he comes back is, did our moisture get stolen? Did the moisture that has disappeared from Missouri, was it sent to Texas, Florida, and ultimately Puerto Rico? And if our government is involved in this kind of hijacking of moisture, that is one of the biggest crimes of the century, causing destruction in the wake of the stolen moisture. And can I prove that? Sure, I can prove that. So what businesses have meetings at the highest level and say, you know what, I got a great idea. Instead of being present on the coast, let's move to the desert. Now, I know there's no water there, but that's okay. We'll do fine. We'll just buy bottled water. Who in their right mind would say something like that? So the theft of our moisture, I think, is a huge deal. And I think it can cause companies to fold. Absolutely. Destroy companies. So, Rick, my question is, did our moisture get stolen, do you think, with these weapons of warfare against we the
What
village?
they're doing is using the water that's in the air as a weapon. And when the water is not in the air, they can't do the weapon. Now, that doesn't mean they're taking the water. They're using it. They can't take it, but they're using it. If it's present, then they can use it as a weapon. And they've been doing this a long time. Conspiracists have been suggesting that this is happening, and now it has been confirmed and is a matter of public record. Now, it's a matter of public record, but did you watch? And this is the part that look at their body postures and the way they're interviewing him. They are so nervous at what he's about to do that they cut him off right in mid-sentence when he exceeded the boundary that they set for disclosure. That means they already know what's going on and are still trying to limit the disclosure enough so that there is a type of shielding between them and the universe. And the problem is, the reason they're allowing him to do this disclosure now is because it's going to be insignificant compared to what is about to happen. That's the way that works. When you've got bad news, you give bad news first, and then you give them the real bad news next, so they even forget the first one. It's going to go down like this. I can feel it in my bones, and what's happening to me personally from this being cut off on this radio, just this moment, and what happened yesterday to me in the post office, I am singled out. There are others being singled out and summarily taken out.
Rick, let's talk a little bit more about this. I'm looking at Michio Kaku, and he's kind of smiling. He's not nervous. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us, richardallenmiller.com, Richard A-L-A-N Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R.com. Rick, on this article that we're talking about, there's a line of text that says agricultural droughts and floods. So obviously that was a key talking point about, the droughts and floods, and that's what I was talking about, that we've had a serious drought here in Missouri, which has caused poor growth of the grasses for the cows, and many of the farmers, including our farm, we've had to sell cows. We've had to sell cows because we don't have enough to feed them, and that's the case with many of the farms, small farmers in our neck of the woods here in Missouri. And then on the commercial side, they're saying that there are big events on the commercial side that will occur, and that's what I was talking about with where do you place your business, and if you find that your business is in an area that doesn't have water anymore, you probably have to pick up and move, because nobody I know other than Las Vegas, they've got to pipe in their water and their electricity. I mean, it makes no sense to have a city where Las Vegas is, as far as I can tell. I mean, if I were planning a city, I wouldn't say, let's move there. I wouldn't do it. I'd say, let's make sure we have all the natural resources we're going to need. So, Rick,
I don't know what to say about any of this. I'm beat up. Just reading
we're all
about
beat up.
Yeah.
We're all beat up, and we're being attacked on 360 degrees. There's no question about it.
There's no
question
rest.
about it.
Yeah, there's no rest.
Well, okay. Here's all right. I mean, this is just a little nit. So I get this letter from the Missouri Department of Revenue. I would consider them a criminal enterprise. Okay, the Taxation Division, Jefferson City, Missouri, and it says to USAPrepares.com Limited Corporation with our address. Says the following city, county, or special taxing district notified the Missouri Department of Revenue that a sales tax change will take place on the effective date noted above. Your business must collect and remit tax as the new sales tax rate. The county has imposed a 0.5% county law enforcement tax. Our county has imposed, under the threat of the muzzle of a gun, a 0.5% county law enforcement tax. Now, our tax rate was around 5.5%. It's gone up by 0.5%. That is about a 10% tax increase. Now, what would happen if you were buying gasoline at $2.25 a gallon, and that was yesterday, and today it's $2.50 a gallon? That's 10%. That's a 10% increase. Wouldn't you say, whoa, I can't believe how much gasoline has gone up? But these thugs in the Missouri Department of Revenue in our county are notifying us it's just a 0.5% increase. Just 0.5 cent. That's all. But in reality, it's a 10% increase. It's an outrage. And I can't believe that the village has allowed this to happen. I can't believe it. We're driving around in old beat-up vehicles, old beat-up trucks, old farm tractors. We're saving baling twine and string so we can reuse it. We're saving everything that we can. We're recycling things for new purposes here on the farm every way we can. And yet we're allowing a 10% tax increase for law enforcement? Law enforcement.
Yeah, they did that here. We had a budget vote to increase that 6 times. It failed 6 times by landslides, and the 7th time it passed. And the 7th time, the county clerk that same month was then moved to a different county with a job increase. Mm-hmm. That's Josephine and Jackson County in Oregon. Our systems are broken. They're broken on a local level. They're broken on a national level. That's the word I use now. They're broken.
Rick, I got a call to speak at a convention. I didn't take the call. Mrs. Finelli took the call. They said, hey, would you like to, can your husband speak at this convention? I happen to be booked. But you know what? I don't know if our voices are making any difference anymore. You know, we talk to people and they go, yeah.
The vote is not an equal vote anymore. They're corrupt, and they count the things as they will, and they add votes that aren't real as they will, and nothing is real anymore. And there's no oversight. There's no due diligence. There's nothing but the corrupt running everything. And it's going to get worse.
You know, I was watching a video series last night on Netflix, and it's called Between. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay.
Nope,
let me just give you the premise. So all of a sudden, people start dying. No symptoms. All of a sudden, somebody, let's say in their 40s, just dies. 50s, dies. Rapid onset death. I mean, within seconds. No symptoms, no coughing, sneezing, just they die. They start bleeding from their mouth, and they fall over and die. Within seconds. I'm not talking 30 seconds. I'm talking like 2 seconds. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. And it's all in this one little town, if you will. Small town. And then they figure out that, wow, it seems to be everybody 22 years old and older. The young ones don't die. Then the young ones have a huge problem on their hands. Number one, they don't have the experience and the depth of knowledge that the older people who just are dying have. So now the young people have got to figure everything out for themselves. And the government comes on the television and says, look, this is a problem. We're trying to figure it out. We want to help you. We're so sorry that this is happening to you. We empathize with your situation. But to keep everybody safe, let me say that a different way. To keep everybody safe, there's a quarantine. So what does the government do? They show up in these black uniforms, and they block the roads. They block the roads. And they have military there with assault weapons, dressed in black. to mow down anybody who violates the curfew. Next thing you know, it's nobody in or out. Unless you live there. If you live there, then you get in and you don't get out. Then the next thing that happens is there's a fence put around the town. Kind of like a prison camp. But the whole town is imprisoned. Then the next thing that happens is you find out that and it says don't leave, don't cross the fence. Next thing you find out is there's a minefield on the outside of the fence. So now these people who are in this town are imprisoned with a fence and a minefield. Then they shut off the power. Now this is the government saying, we're on your side, we're here to help you, we empathize. Now, guys, you got to start burning those bodies. And then as soon as we contain this, then we can talk about lifting the quarantine. This is an absolutely terrifying situation, but it kind of depicts the way governments react. And can you imagine our government not doing that? Can you imagine our government saying, listen, let's send in some aid, let's send in some people to diagnose what this problem is? I haven't seen very much of it so far, but my question is this a man-made thing, an experiment, and let's lock down the town and see how well it works? That was coming to my mind. So I haven't seen enough of it to know exactly how this plays out, but it's called Between. It's absolutely terrifying. And it's, what do the young people do? And then there's some people who are young and they are considered conspiracy theorists. And you know what? They're right. They are right. The people who buy the government yarn and believe what the government says, those are the ones who are being duped, just like in real life. Those that buy the government yarn are being duped. And I can't believe it. I can't believe how manipulated these elections are. I can't believe how manipulated. We don't get choices of really good candidates. We really don't. We don't have good boards of directors. We don't have people who know what's going on. People who are learned, experienced, scientists. Who's running the planet? Wall Street's got a big piece of it. Wall Street. Money thugs. To me, it's an outrage. I'm annoyed, but now I'm being criticized like I'm not doing enough to fix it. I don't know how to fix it, honestly. How do you fix this? How do you fix a system that has been broken through education? How do you fix a system where you have no child left behind? George Bush, no child left behind. We have avoided educating our young people to the point where they are so ignorant they don't know what's going on. They don't know about the branches of government. They don't know much at all. Take their cell phone away from them and they melt down. That's what we've raised. Rick, I was reading an article about Michio Kaku, and there's an article that says that he was talking about using lasers to create channels for electricity in the atmosphere. That's, electricity in the atmosphere, that's lightning, right? And so I think what he's talking about is steering lightning. Is that correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Using lightning, not just weather. Yes, not just the rain.
Mm-hmm. So steering lightning.
That, by the way, will change Schumann's resonance.
Steering lightning lightning's really powerful. I mean, really, really, really powerful. And so, Rick, I've been reading articles about lasers, and we're talking about using lasers to steer lightning. And the military, the Navy, has a laser weapon system. They call it LAWS, LAWS. What an interesting acronym that is. It stands for Laser Weapon System. LAWS, Laser Weapon System. And it's not experimental. It is deployed right now on the USS, let's see, where did it go? USS Ponce, Ponce. It's an amphibious transport ship, and it can be fired right now. And the thing about lasers is it's about 50,000 times the speed of an incoming intercontinental ballistic missile. Lasers move at the speed of light, and they destroy everything in their path, right? Don't they vaporize or almost vaporize everything in their path? So if you were to watch one aimed at an airplane, it can destroy that airplane and cause it to to crash. Same thing with aiming one at a drone. And they're silent. There's no sound barrier breaking that you hear. You don't hear a sonic boom when a laser is deployed. It's what it hits first that gets destroyed. And I saw a very, very, very small laser being used. 1 watt. 1 watt. 1/100th the power of a 100-watt light bulb. 1 watt. And this thing burned a hole in a piece of plastic, probably 1/32 of an inch thick. A perfect round hole in less than a second from a distance. And when it was used used on a snowy day. And the reflection that I saw when I was looking down at the snow was almost blinding. A 1 watt laser will do eye surgery on whoever it happens to be pointed at. Can blind you instantly. And who's playing with these? Our government. Not little ones, not 1 watters, not 2 watters, but thousands and thousands of watts. Enough to take a jet airplane right out of the sky. That's what we're playing with. It's really, really concerning to me. And I have a feeling, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, but if a satellite, if someone wanted to take out a satellite and had one of these powerful laser weapons, couldn't they just aim it at a satellite and...
Well, that's the Star Wars program. Yeah.
And we've allowed this to happen. And is this all in the name of national defense? What's this in the name of? Very, very disconcerting. Rick, when we get back, can you tell us what your current greatest fear is? What is the maybe first, second, and third most concerning things that could happen to us, might happen to us, will happen to us at some point in time? Dr. Richard Alan Miller is with us. I'm Ben Finelli. We'll be right back. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. I just heard on the news that the average mortgage rate's around 3.8% in the United States. And I was just thinking about that. Back in the 1970s, Mrs. Finelli and I bought a house. Mortgage rate was about either 10.25%, 10.5%, or 10.75%. It was one of those. And we got a mortgage note for our house, and we were able to buy a house together. It was a nice house with a mortgage rate of over 10%. Current mortgage rate, 3.8%, and young people can't afford to buy a house. Unbelievable. Our mortgage payment was $470, $470. And it was a house that needed some work. It was our very first house together. It was about $75,000. It's about 4,000 square feet. It was a huge house. It was a 2-story colonial made out of brick. It needed work, and we did all the work ourselves. And that was our first house together. Because I asked Mrs. Finelli, would you rather have an engagement ring, or would you rather have an extra room in a house? What would you like to do? And she said, that's easy. An extra room in a house. And so that's what we did. And we lived there and we fixed it up. And what we did was we scrimped and saved. We deferred instant gratification, I guess for the rest of our lives together, which includes all the way up to today. And we doubled up and tripled up on the payments on the mortgage. So, maybe month 1 we paid 2 mortgage payments. Month 2 we paid 3 mortgage payments. And within about, maybe 10 years we paid the whole darn thing off. But there were no vacations. The reason I'm saying this is, it can be done, but you have to forego eating at restaurants, and you have to forego vacations and driving expensive new cars and things like that. And you have to scrimp and save. And that's what we've done all our lives. Yes, it can be done. So the news with that mortgage rate average of 3.8% just triggered that thought. I just wanted to share that with you. Rick, over the years, you and I have discussed what your biggest concern is. and your second biggest and your third biggest. You know, we've got hurricanes, we've got economics, we've got weapons, we've got radiation, we've got, well, the news talks about terrorism. I think the biggest terrorist in the world is the U.S. government. But what are your thoughts? What are your biggest concerns, if you're willing to share?
Artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And the way it's being deployed.
Okay.
It's like a weapon. Mm-hmm. Google, start there, social networking, move down into the way they manipulate banks and the stock exchange. Nothing is real. The stock exchange cannot fail now by definition, and yet it is. How does that work? The U.S. government is going to have to print more money. It has to. How's that work? The local police department and the way they treat citizens and the way they treat crime is different. And today, police are going to be ostracized and punished in Chicago for kneeling in front of someone that died. It's crazy. This is not the country that I support. It's changed. And the problem is it started changing even when I was a child and I didn't see it then. And now I'm an adult trying to talk to children. And so what they've done is they've taken out a whole generation just with music. Then they've taken it out with education, no cursive, signing your name. It's the thing that made you unique. And now they're going to change passwords using your heart rate, your heart. I'm a scientist and know that that's not where the answers lie. They lie within yourself and in how you feel personally about something. It's a higher form of intelligence over the physical plane and knowing how the physical plane works. It's how you feel about it. And I am in revolt. I will not participate anymore. I used to say that the U.S. Postal Service was the only thing the United States government ever did right. I am in error.
Okay. Since you mentioned that, I know a guy who lived in a small town who used to have an eBay business, and he sold small, expensive items, and they could easily be mailed in let's say an envelope. And I don't mean a first-class envelope. I mean one of those padded type envelopes, maybe 5x7, maybe 8x10. And what happened was, because this person lived in a small town, he would see the same U.S. Postal Service employees day after day after day after day. And he would bring in a box of these envelopes, and he'd mail them 5 or 6 days a week to people all over the country and outside the country. And as the story goes, he would engage in, chat with the employees there at the U.S. Postal Service. And they talk about his business and what he was doing, and then they got the idea of what would be in these packages. The next thing you know, packages go missing, and so the customers on eBay say, "I never got it," and that reached about 10%. And these customers didn't know each other, so 10% of the customers are saying they never got it. So this eBay entrepreneur, to keep his ratings up on eBay, would say, "I'm so sorry. Would it be okay if I sent you another one? No charge." And that's what he did. And sometimes it became 3. So about 10% of these packages went missing. And of course, this entrepreneur went to the Postal Service manager, the postmaster of this post office, and they said he will look into it. Yeah, look into it. Months go by, and we don't know. We don't know where they went. So what this entrepreneur did was he decided that he would spread out his his packages and not discuss anything with the U.S. Postal Service employees. He would just go to different post offices and mail the packages and just be just like every other grumpy person that goes into a government building. Now, I'm not saying the post office is a government building, but just like a person would go into a government building and be just there. Not friendly, just a customer who has nothing to say. Just wants to transact business and get out. As a result, he determined that the packages did not go missing. It was only at this one post office where he was a frequent customer up until that point. And what he learned was that there could be only one answer, and that was that it was really likely that the U.S. Postal Service employees or employee was involved in stealing the mail. That's all it could be. All it could be. Because he solved the problem by going to different post offices and not discussing what his business was. And that was the only thing that worked. The only thing that worked. So what happened was going from one of the largest customers of this small post office to being not a customer of this small post office. That's what happened. But it was an expensive lesson. So, Rick, I'm here to tell you, I know a person who experienced what happens when using the U.S. mail. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. The United States Postal Service. That's different from the U.S. mail. I think that, and I can't prove it, but I believe that the post office, as we use it today, is not the same as it was in the 1950s, 60s, and maybe even up to 1971. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us. Hey, Rick, metaphysics. Do you have something that you want to share about your metaphysics offerings?
Well, you mean shameless self-promotion? Yes.
Well, no. See, I don't look at it that way. You've got a huge fan club.
I'm reluctant. I'm easy to talk about myself, and I have found that even though I do it real well and I do it, I really don't really want to talk about myself as much as I would just simply talk about things. And I end up doing that for credibility, getting someone's attention, and then I overdo it or whatever. And really, what I'm about is I'm like an encyclopedia, and I taught metaphysics for PC Link when it changed to AOL. AOL wanted to become a new concept in social media networking, and so this is back in 1990. And they hired me, Mark Hume himself, to teach metaphysics, and I used the well in San Francisco to work out of IES, Interactive Educational System, out of Humboldt State. And what I did is I gave basic foundation information on things like astrology, numerology, the occult, anything that they wanted to talk about, whoever showed up, I was there as a Mr. Wizard. And I did that for 11 years. And I did 15 different 9-week courses. And so Russ Rengie, my tech support, chose to convert that texting. That was back when texting was going on. We didn't have any Skype or anything like that. And it turned out that he added artificial voices to the texting, converted everything into audio, the idea being that I would somehow get around Amazon like the music industry did, where they did live recordings. The Amazon could not bootleg those kinds of things, and so I was going to try to do the same thing with metaphysics. Each disc, there are 15 audio books. I've got 6 of them. 3 are about to be put up on the net. 3 are up on there's a special on those. That and I wanted to have them have their own covers. I could have done it as download and done it real cheap, but I decided to make something that was actually usable as a foundation. So I'm spending a little extra money and making an audio tape that has a rare book download for each disc. That means you're getting texts and manuscripts that I would quote from in the audio texting. Like the first one has The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly Palmer Hall as just one, has a bunch of Aleister Crowley books, other things like that. Now you can find these things now fairly easily on the internet if you know what to look for. I included them as part of the audiobooks to support my concepts, and then for you to read what I read and have your own conclusions. And that's the way the audiobooks are set up. So they have an outline of what I'm going to cover in that 9-week course, and then the books that I used for my references that are in my library. What's happening is that there's a massive interest in looking at something beyond the physical world. And the sciences are going in that direction with string theory, now moving into knot theory, and the idea of a multiverse where there are closed systems between you and me. And it's a new way of looking at reality that allows certain doors to be available that were not previously available to man. And for me, I personally feel that this is the next evolutionary stage in the evolution of man's consciousness, going from looking at things in the physical. Physics is not real. It's models. And every 20 years, those models change. The theory of everything is not going to happen by definition. It doesn't work that way. And our way of looking at things is arbitrary. And what I am now making as an assumed truth is that imagination is reality, that we are only limited by our imagination. All of our sciences, every single one, is based on a science fiction projection by H.G. Wells, others, in terms of what is possible. And once it became possible, it became probable. And the one I use...
Hold that thought. Okay. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us, richardalanmiller.com, richardalanmiller.com. So, Rick, beyond metaphysics, beyond physics, how do we get this audio series? Where do we go?
You can order them from me, and I'm in the middle of having a war going on with someone near me, and I don't know who it is, that is messing with my sales, messing with my production of books. Amazon is typical. When it started, my incomes I should have been able to buy a home, and I can't even pay my rent. Now, that's crazy. And so we now have nailed down, we think we now know who it is that's doing what they're doing. We don't know that yet. We're going to be doing some more investigation today. Something terrible happened yesterday, and I'm getting closer and closer to understanding what my real problems are. I'm not at liberty to talk about them because I'm about to do something about them. But so I'm about to take care of, I hope, knock on wood, business. Meta means more or beyond. Now, all of us realize that the physical world is not as we necessarily perceive it. In fact, many Aborigine tribes that we respect, like the Hopi, the Sinoi, the Aborigines of Australia, have something that we don't understand in the way they relate to their environment and life that somehow, in some ways, are superior, like the Greek culture. Their technology was philosophy of morals and ethics, and having to deal with philosophy of archetypes, of stories, seeing a common thread within certain things. that was a technology that we consider soft psychology. Jungian psychotherapy, however, includes such things as neuro-linguistic programming, where there are other kinds of communications going on. That was the first thing I understood when Grace Thorne's child asked me, if pigs are so smart, how come parrots can talk and pigs can't? And I had to think about that for a moment, and I came off with a humorous, well, bird brain comes to mind, and when a pig wants something, it knows how to communicate it without words. And the child got it. And you get it. There's something more going on here that we miss through the forest of filtering. And it turns out our primary brain, the one we associate with the mind, is only there to make your beliefs true. If you had been born in Afghanistan, you would not be a Christian, which means where you were born arbitrarily determines the strength of your belief in something. That would suggest that a belief, then, is a tool, not an absolute. And that during the summer, you do not wear a sweater, and you don't necessarily, because that's your most favorite sweater, throw it away. You put it away to be used in an appropriate situation. And so with that said, I then made the second assumed truth. The truth is not out there, it's inside you. That means it is not the written word, it's your response to it. And if that's true, as an assumed truth, that leads to a whole new realm of what religion and science are and what they are not. And they are basically both closed systems. Neither has the answer, and they're only as limited as your worldview of it. And that means you have a bigger spoon or a smaller spoon, more limited. And so I decided to try and experiment with that to see where it would take me. Now, I don't follow Jesus Christ, I follow his teachings. Why? Well, where did Christ go for 20 years, the lost years of Christ? He went to India. He studied the Upanishads. It is from the Upanishads, a previous technology and Bible called the Cauldron Bible that Mark, Luke, and James used, that talk about treating others as you would like to be treated. That's where that teaching came from. Now, that means the truth has been interlaid throughout history, not the Catholic Church, which, by the way, requires someone to talk to God on your behalf. Now, I have my own ideas of things, and I am a very strong follower of the teachings of Christ. And to that extent, last week, I went to church both Saturday and Sunday. I went to a Seventh-day Adventist church on Saturday, and then I went to a Christian church on Sunday. And I am going around getting the messages from everyone, and I'm learning some very important lessons, why I like this and why I don't like that. And guess what? It's different for each of us. And that part is God's will. And the very thing that most Christians are guilty of is the thing that makes them Christian, of not judging another person. And so how does that work? Charismatics. Well, that led me to take a closer look at my sciences. And I'm finding that science is exactly the same thing as religion. And guess what? The inner lodges that I belong to, Order of the Silver Star, not OTO, the inner one, AA, Argenum, has a logo that says, the method of science toward the aim of religion. And it's a closed system, like you have two brains in a cavitation. You could look at your two brains as an hourglass, going from the past into the future, and really all you have is the moment. And I know most people will not get the full Monty of what I've just tried to say, but I will suggest that religion is the white hole going into the black hole of science, and that the two are simply connected as a limited, closed system which each of us hold within ourselves, based on our assumed truths and belief systems, which are arbitrary. Now, once you get that concept, now you have a couple of new doors that can open for you. And that's what metaphysics is about, is the ability to open and close certain doors that were not previously available. By suggesting that the brain is a four-dimensional hologram of five space, suggests that if I go to different places in my brain, I can change the movie. Guess what? That's what all saints in history have suggested in the importance of training the mind, because the mind is there as a tool. And if you choose to believe it as the absolute, you lock into becoming what I call a sheeple. And they are using that as a primary form of mind control. And I want to step outside the box. Now, when you step outside the box, the first thing that happens is you're not sure what's going to happen. That's the only place where change occurs, because you have fear. That's the first thing. You can't control it. Well, in psychology, they will say that control is a fantasy. It's about the moment and not knowing. And that's where the wonder of everything occurs. It's about the journey, not the door. Simon says you can go halfway to the door, and we all focus on the door, but we never get there, because it is by definition impossible. What it's about is how you treat the moment as you move from one place to the next toward something. Now, once you start to integrate that, a whole new world of possibilities are available, including the evolution of human consciousness. And that is why magic is an art form. It is the study of altered states of consciousness at will, where if you use this state of consciousness, your ability in guessing is 100 times, 400 times over where you are statistical inference. Breaks the laws of physics. In this state of consciousness, you can rip a steel car door off to save your daughter in a flaming fire, and yet, how can you do that? The bone isn't as strong as steel. How come you don't break your bones? Everybody says adrenaline. It's not adrenaline. Adrenaline is what allows you to go from this universe to that universe where the laws are different. And you are only limited to these laws by your imagination. And so that's where the seat of it all lies. And that is just slightly below the gut, which is your first brain. In other words, there's another brain that's even below the gut. I'm going to suggest the seat of imagination, Tantian. That is structured water in a microtubule called qi that leaves the body at the moment of death. There's a 3.4 ounce weight loss at the moment of death. What is that? Well, the Egyptians called it the Ba and the Ka. They made a distinction about soul and spirit within matter. And Christian beliefs, I've tried to approach that from an alchemical point of view, and what alchemy then became chemistry, and so now physics will become magic. It'll have mystery school. It'll be advanced physics with a mystery school. And those mystery schools, plural, will be like seen in Dune, where you have the guilds of Bene Gesserit and the Space Guild and the Guild of Mentat, where they go into a trance. I see this, I know this, I take this turn, no-ho ringy keel, no-ho ringy keel. You know, that's called Cimarron and Budgeon. And I'm seeing how you train the mind using different tools. The Jesuits did it by whipping themselves into an altered state. Today, we use drugs. We use Ford Hammer. We use coffee. And right now, just me talking to you, you have gone in the last minute into at least 20 to 50 different altered states where each one, the law was quite different as your mind wanders in the possibility.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back. Rick, I was hoping we could get to three quick things before the end of this broadcast. Short segment coming up. C60, buckyballs, alternating current. Is it damaging the planet? And what happened to the brilliant mechanical inventions of the Industrial Revolution and since then? Buckyballs.
There's a new breakthrough on C60 molecule that has exclusion zone water and mixed with olive oil. I wrote about that 2 years ago in Nexus magazine. It repairs your the telomerase in your body and reverses aging. I am now taking that as an experiment, like I did cordyceps mushrooms, and I'm going to record and try to live to 120. I have to finish all the work I've started.
Okay, and where do we get that?
Bucky Labs is the one I'm using right now on the internet. You'll have to look for it. Bucky Labs. That was Russ Rengie that sent me my first set to experiment, and I'm now keeping a diary like I did when I did cordyceps for the military.
Okay. Next thing, alternating current. Is it damaging the planet? And when I talk about alternating current,
60 cycle, 50 cycle has LD50 ratios in some parts of organs of the body. Is it good or bad? I don't know. I can tell you that next to your head at night, you're going to dream differently. So it's very important using a tri-field meter where you have a lower amplitude on those bandwidth frequencies, yes. Mm-hmm. And you want to put your head this way, not that way, kind of thing, mm-hmm. Yes. Uh-huh. The extent of it, I don't know.
All right. And what I was thinking of is these transformers, these alternating current transformers, these big cans that are a little smaller than a garbage can, a 40-gallon garbage can. They might be like a 15-gallon garbage can, if you will.
They have a field radiation that is toxic. It drops off by 1 over R squared, which means, like your telephone, which also has one of those in it, you want to hold it away from your head like I do, working with speakerphones. Or a pair of headphones that go down to the device. And the device should not be next to your body, like in your pocket.
And what I was referring to is all of these power transmission lines that, the biggest thing that man has ever made, the most complex, is the power grid. And so we've got wires everywhere and radiating electrical currents at 60 cycles.
I'm reminded of the movie Neighbors with John Belushi.
Okay. All right. So are you concerned about that? Do you think we're damaging the planet with these?
I won't live near power lines. Look at all the vegetating growth and how it affects that.
Okay. And I know that if you take a fluorescent tube, an 8-foot or 4-foot fluorescent tube, and you go under these high-tension power lines, and you hold it parallel to them, that tube will light up. You'll see it light up at night.
Yeah.
Without
just like Uncle Fester when he sticks a light bulb in his mouth.
That's it. The Addams Family. Next question. Brilliant mechanical inventions of decades ago. I'm talking about, that wire egg cutter. You put the boiled egg, shelled boiled egg in this wire cutter, and you just press down. It cuts that egg into slices. Other things like the melon baller, where you take this little scoop and you put it in a melon, a watermelon or muskmelon or any of those melons, and it gives you little scoops of melon. Then you have the meat grinder, and then you have the crock pot. All kinds of really cool mechanical and mostly mechanical inventions, and they were brilliant. What happened? Where are the new ones?
Well,
how come we don't
you can call it your transformer. That's what it's doing to you. It's making a nice little melon bowl out of your brain. How's that for a metaphor?
So, let me see if I've got this right. So the society that we live in today, this just-in-time society, the attacks of all these electromagnetic fields that we're around, are creating or are preventing our creativity. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there any way of fixing it?
Yeah.
I've got to lift up. That's where I'm going.
Get as far away from it as you can.
Yeah. And you're not kidding, are you?
No, I'm not.
Rick, I'll see you next Thursday. Same time, same station. Dr. Richard Alan Miller. RichardAlanMiller.com if you want to get metaphysics.